Welcome everybody to a look at a brand new 4K limited edition set from Second Sight, and it is 1986's The Hitcher. Yeah, this is directed by Robert Harmon, who also did the film Nowhere to Run, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. And it's a horror thriller with elements of action, and that clocks in at 97 minutes long. Stars Rutger Hauer, who I've seen in 13 other films, like Blade Runner, Batman Begins, Sin City, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, Nighthawks, and Blind Fury. Also stars C. Thomas Howell, who I've unfortunately not seen very much from. The only leading role that I feel like I've seen from him before has been Red Dawn. And it also stars Jennifer Jason Leigh, who's also is undoubtedly had the more successful career after this film, being in the likes of The Hateful Eight, Annihilation, Possessor, Backdraft, Single White Female, Dolores Claiborne, and Miami Blues. So on a stormy night, young Jim, who transports a luxury car from Chicago to California to deliver it to its owner. Feeling tired and sleepy, however, he picks up a mysterious hitchhiker who has appeared out of nowhere, thinking that a good conversation will help him to not fall asleep. Unfortunately, he will have enough time to deeply regret such an unmediated decision. Yeah, it's probably not a massively popular opinion, but this to me is one of the best horror films from the 80s, but not just because of that horror element, as effective as it is, but also because it's got elements of thriller and action that are also just as great and just as effective when mixed all together. The performances, the style, the violence, cinematography, and the lack of dialogue in plenty of scenes that are replaced effectively by visual storytelling are all excellent, while the fact that the main character is pretty much useless in such a hopeless situation really does help to make for such a taut film. Then there is a score which is extremely well done. There is plenty of atmosphere. The action scenes are great. The setting is well used. The running time flies by. The character interactions are on point, and it is thoroughly engrossing throughout. Yeah, this is as close to perfect as you can pretty much get. 4.5 stars out of 5 from me. The half star there is purely just because I feel like it could go in some more surprising directions, but on the whole, everything here is pretty much great. And yeah, to finally have it on a 4K, well, to say that, to finally have it on a Blu-ray, never mind a 4K release, is amazing, considering, like I said, it's one of my all-time favorite films, especially from the 80s. For the longest time, I've only ever had to deal with a DVD. This was released in 2003. It's quite a decent edition, though, considering all of the extras that it has on it, some of which are actually on this release. But one extra that isn't on the new release, and as far as I'm concerned, isn't on there, I certainly haven't seen it, is a short film by Rutger Hauer himself, clocking in at 11 minutes long, called The Room. But the other short on here is on there on this new release, including the documentary and the trailer. I'm not sure if the filmographies of the people that it goes through is on there, or the screenplay samples, which includes 2 deleted scenes. But yeah, this was released in 2003, so the picture quality is not the greatest. Yeah, that's one thing that this new release does have over the older release, is the picture quality has greatly improved. The colors look better. The just the image clarity looks better, and the sound obviously looks better as well. The sounds better as well, just especially when it comes to the action scenes, because there is a great many explosions in this. It has one of the best gas station explosions in any film, and then there's car chases and obviously lots of gunshots, and yeah, they're all sounding damn well great, quite frankly. And there's a lot of physical extras here as well as extras on the disc. So firstly, we have a massive 200-page plus book with a bunch of write-ups from a varied amount of people. And it's a proper hardback as well, which is really nice to see. Second Sight do obviously put in a great amount of detail when it comes to their physical extras, and this is no different. Yeah, included in the write-up is also the cast and the crew, and there are also a bunch of behind-the-scenes photos, looking at the production. You know, seeing the actors alongside the directors and behind the camera as well. Yeah, but in terms of the write-ups, we've got an exclusive interview with director Robert Harmon by Lou Thomas, even. And then we've got The Devil Thumbs a Ride by John Towson. Then we've got Tall Dark Stranger, Robert Harmon's A Hitcher by Heather Drain. Then we got I Want You to Stop Me, Masculinity in the Films of Eric Red, by Craig Ian Mann. Now the writer is of this film is Eric Red. He also went on to do Near Dark, another horror film. He also did the wrote and direct the film Cohen and Tate. I was just quickly looking behind me because I do have that on Blu-ray from Arrow Video, but I don't seem to be able to see it immediately. One of the obvious negatives of having such a large film collection is not being able to find things very easily. But regardless, he has done really rather good films in terms of the writer before. Then we've also got an exclusive interview with writer Eric Red by Matthew Thrift. Then we got Behind the Scenes, which is where those photos come in. Then we've got Dangerous Intimacy, The Queerness of the Hitcher by David Kittredge. Then we got The Immovable Object Meets the Unstoppable Force, Ambiguity, Duality, and The Silent Landscape in the Hitcher by Rebecca McCallum. So yeah, there is a lot of silence in this film. There is a great score, like I said, but it doesn't let the score override the emotional weight of certain scenes, and the silence itself says a great deal about what has just happened or what is about to happen, and I think that's a really rather great part of this film. Then you got Road to Ruin, Traversing an Allegorical Nightmare Through Violence and Genre by Megan Navarro. On the Highway to Hell with the Hitcher by Mark Weinberg. And then acknowledgements and production credits as well. So, yeah, let's have a look at the. I thought it was going to tell me about the transfer at the back there, but not so. You probably said that on another part. But then we've also got the screenplay by Eric Red. Now, this is the original screenplay. It's not the actual screenplay that was used for the film, as evidenced by certain parts in here that aren't in the film, quite frankly. Yeah, but still, it's fantastic little extra to have, and it is nicely presented. Again, nice. Just a lot of nice quality to it. It feels like a proper book. Just like the write-ups feels like a proper book. And then we get some art cards as well, which are also stylized like the hard box has been. So minor spoilers for the film because there are a little bit here and there. And then there's C. Thomas Howell. And there's Rutger Hauer. And then we get Rutger Hauer again with the hard box artwork as well, which I really rather like. Then we get Jennifer Jason Leigh. And finally C. Thomas Howell again, which are all really nicely done. There's nothing on the backs of them, but they are really nicely done. The box itself, proper solid, just as per usual when it comes to Second Sight films. And again, got more artwork on the back and that on the side. And finally, we've got the film on the discs itself, which is presented in this. And then we've got the 4K here, Blu-ray here, and yeah, like I said, the 4K looks absolutely excellent. I've not checked the Blu-ray out yet, but I imagine that still looks pretty damn good, especially as a comparison to the DVD. Personally, I'd have been fine with just a Blu-ray because for the longest time, like I said, I've only been able to deal with DVD quality, so Blu-ray itself would have been a massive upgrade, but to get it on 4K is just even that bit more special. And then it's a new 4K restoration by Second Sight Films from the original camera negative that has been supervised and approved by director Robert Harmon. It's UHD presented in HDR with Dolby Vision, features Dolby Atmos and original stereo audio mixes. And then on the discs itself, we've got new audio commentary by Alexander Helen Nicholas, audio commentary with Robert Harmon and writer Eric Red. Then we've got new audio, no, we just read that. Scene-specific audio commentary with Robert Harmon, Eric Red, executive producer Edward S. Feldman, composer Mark Isham, director of photography John Seal, and actors Rutger Hauer and C. Thomas Howell. And obviously the Rutger Hauer one is going to be archival interview or archival audio commentary because obviously he died a few years back. Not sure if any of that is going to be archival in terms of the other people involved. And then we've got the production booth podcast, which is featuring Robert Harmon and Rutger Hauer. Bullseye, a new interview with Robert Harmon. Penning the Ripper, a new interview with Eric Red. Doomed to Live, a new interview with C. Thomas Howell. Then we've got The Man from Oz, a new interview with John Seal. A Very Formative Score, a new interview with Mark Isham. Jewel Runner, late singer on the evolution of the Hitcher and Rutger Hauer. Then we've got a couple of short films here. We've got China Lake, a short film by Robert Harmon, newly restored. Then we've got The Calling Card, Robert Harmon on China Lake. And then we've got Telephone, a short film by Eric Red. And then we've got The Hitcher, How Do These Movies Get Made? And trailers. So the only extra that's I can, concretely say that isn't on this release that is on here is that short film from Rutger Hauer. But the fact is that we do have the China Lake one, and that has been restored in its own right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the comparison between those two as well, because yeah, I haven't got around to watching those short films, and I'd like to see the China Lake one on the DVD just to see how much the restoration has improved it with this new release. So yeah, absolutely superb film. It is interesting as well that just in 21 years that the rating has gone from an 18 now to a 15 as far as the UK ratings go. I guess that's just because violence nowadays is not seen as harsh, or as bad, I guess you could say. That's not to say that the violence in this isn't strong, because it is in a lot of ways, but yeah, it does take quite a lot to get an 18 rated film these days in the UK. So yeah, that's just an interesting little comparison from 21 years ago. And yeah, highly recommend getting this film if you haven't already and you are a fan of the film itself. But if you haven't seen this film, then I still would recommend it, because I do think it's genuinely superb. And it works as a kind of companion piece to two other films from 2 decades either side of this. Um, one of which this actually was compared against unfavorably when it was originally released, and that is Duel from Steven Spielberg from 1971, and then Breakdown with Kurt Russell from the late 90s. I feel like they're all kind of somewhat interconnected in terms of the way that they present their action and their plot. A man on his own against the odds in the desert, usually based around vehicles, which this Duel and Breakdown is. And yeah, they all kind of feel kind of somewhat similar in that regard. Obviously, they're completely different in terms of violence and how mainstream they are or aren't. Duel is like an independent TV film. This is a violent horror with thriller and action elements, and Breakdown is a more mainstream thriller from the 90s, where that kind of genre of film was, yeah, highly popular, and yeah, produce a great many of films. So yeah, but I think the all three of them work together, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Breakdown getting a 4K release, so that can go alongside Duel, and then we'll have all three of them on 4K, and I can watch them back to back in the best quality possible. So yeah, but nonetheless, if you have seen this film before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, and yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.